Alrighty, folks. It's 3 p.m. on the East Coast. Welcome to Twitch Line. We are live here on Sunday, June 16th. It is another one of our Sunday focus shows. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're here to help you with issues with regards to relationships, love, and any problems or sort of questions you might have regarding them. I am your caster, Hodohori. You can call me Hodo or Z, joined as always with my co-host and best friend of mine. It is Mr. Acorn, also known as Tim. How are you doing today, buddy?
Doing very well, sir. Very happy with USA's win over Chile in the World Cup, Women's World Cup. And so that's got me buzzing, man. I'm ready for this.
Oh, right. Yes, it was a 3-0 victory for the U.S. women over Chile in the World Cup. They qualify into the next round. So, for those who are interested in Women's World Cup, check that out on Fox. In the meantime, let's get some stuff out of the way. You can always contact us at our email address, twitchlinelove@gmail.com. You may also follow us on Twitch at Twitchline. We also have a YouTube channel link, which is below, where you can catch all of our videos. If you want a recording, we upload all of those videos onto YouTube. They're a great car listen. So if you want to just sort of watch us on a delay, our content isn't time specific. So therefore, if you are interested and want to watch at a later date, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, which you can click on below and listen to our content that way, either in your car or at home on your computer. So let's take you to the main scene. How you doing, everybody? Just wearing my U.S. jersey, showing my national pride, and very, very happy. Just starting this Sunday on Twitch Line. But we have today a focus. We are going to be talking about one specific subject with regards to what normally do. We answer questions. We answer people's questions on Reddit. But in this particular case, what we are going to be doing is sort of focusing on a topic, and today's topic is going to be, why do you think people are disqualified in online dating? You know that the it is hard out there to sort of find somebody, and online dating has become this sort of prominent way to go out there and sort of find that partner of yours. And in recent years, it has become very, very prevalent and almost become sort of like the majority of what people have done. I mean, you go back to 2009, maybe the early, even the middle 2000s, and online dating wasn't as prevalent as it is right now. And to a point, you can just sort of use your phone to sort of swipe and find a date. I mean, Tim, it has sort of changed. The mentality has changed in just 10 years, whereas now online dating is just very, very prevalent around all cultures here around the world.
Right. And if we go back and look even earlier in the late 90s, when everyone was moving from chat rooms to, the beginnings of these dating sites, between that time and now, it's just tremendous how many active users there are on various platforms, sites, apps, basically, if you're not connected to this point, if you're single and you're not connected through one of these things, you're kind of an outlier. So, uh, you know, while everyone's jumped in, a lot of people are feeling the frustrations that come along with feeling like they're being marginalized and possibly ignored. Some of them feel like they can't even get involved in the first place because they have things about their life, their money situation, their family situation, a great number of things. And then some of them, something that they can't change, like a biological thing, their race, their age, they kind of feel like they aren't welcome or they are just having terrible results putting themselves out there. And a lot of them feel like they just want to give up. So I think looking at some statistics today, looking to see how trends are changing and see what is real and what's in your head, I think people will actually get a chance to be able to approach it at least from a realistic point of view rather than uh, just guessing or just feeling like the world's against them. So I see you put up the first graphic here.
Hmm.
I thought before we jump into that graphic, I just give kind of some general statistics that we picked up. They're from a 2015 Pew Research Center data saying is that about now, at this point, 2015, there are about 8,000 dating sites out there, and about 49 million users in the United States of America. So it's a tremendous number, and I imagine it's even more than that. If this is 2015, I would be less than surprised if it's doubled or tripled since then. Um, and we also have, looking at these numbers here, we have people that have used online dating sites, people have used the mobile apps, and then sort of like the total online users. Um, it says here, out of all adults, 15% of them are actually using online dating sites, and that it's slightly more for men and women. I think it comes down to something like 52% of the population on these sites and apps are men, 48% are women. So it's actually much more even than some people would like to say. That a lot of them feel like there are a billion guys and 17 women, and they're just not getting the results because it's basically just a sausage party.
Yeah.
And while that that itself may not be true as far as representation, it- having a profile doesn't necessarily mean you're active in it, right? So another statistic that popped out when I was doing this research was that about a third of the people on these online dating sites and apps have never actually gone out with someone on there. So some of them are just on there sort of honeymooning, like no, what's the word? Moonlighting, right? They're just on
Moonlighting.
there like
Yep.
picking up some self affirmation by getting messages saying someone says, "Oh, you're hot," and then you just sort of put that in your pocket and keep walking. So uh, I would say that that might be one of the frustrations that people are not getting that connection back from the person on the other side there. So if we look at the age range, as we would expect, most of the people are between 18 and 44 years old, which is about it's about even across that. I mean, 27% of users are between 18 and 24, 22 between 25 and 34, 21 between 35 and 44, and it starts to dwindle as they move on into the mid 40s and later.
Yeah.
So it's a young man's game, a young woman's game.
Yeah, and you can see that the percentage and usage in mobile apps as the demographic gets younger gets larger and larger, and this was from 4 years ago. So you can imagine if Pew Research were to do a 2019 version, as that generation of 18 to 24s turn into 25 to 34s, and a new generation of 18 to 24s come in who have been very technologically inbreded in using their phones and do just basically just inundated with technology, that is going to get higher and higher, which is why you see the rise of dating apps. So therefore, you see the younger generation just very very useful using those mobile apps. But in the meantime, there you see those statistics, and you sort of see like sort of the diversity in that sort of 18 to 44 range with regards to what how people are basically trying to find that significant other. But our topic today is basically how you think people are court disqualified from online dating. Is like what is happening with that you think that you're not getting the success that you think you deserve or you think that you should be having. And we're trying to sort of break down and figure out why those reasons are, and there are some obvious reasons and there are some non so obvious reasons. And one of the first things that always comes up with regards to dating is race. I'm Asian. Tim is Caucasian slash Hispanic. Um, we are not the majority demographic that is here in the United States, and theoretically there are quotes stereotypes as to what type of person that you're looking for, and race comes into play. There are also other factors like religion and otherwise, but it always usually starts with race when you're trying to find out whether or not somebody is attractive or not. And I think you have some statistics on that too.
That's right. Yeah, we pulled some data from sort of a compiled data from OkCupid that was
Hmm.
released a while ago, and there are I don't know if you have a visual for that.
Yeah, I
Yeah, there
do.
we go. So,
Then this is the
if
2009,
we,
so this is way back when.
right,
So.
right,
Hmm.
and from what we'll show you here, there actually have been major changes even within this data set from this particular site over these years between 2009 and 2014.
Hmm.
Um, what we found, which we were not surprised about at all, is most races rate highly with someone of their own race. So Asian men and women, Black men and women, Latino men and women, white men and women, they generally have positive numbers towards, you know, rating and seeking each other out. Um, some of the ones that stand out and are, mostly negative are that black women tend to have low ratings kind of across the board, um, barely evening out with black men, which is just, I mean, that's just tragic. It
Hmm.
just maybe must be very difficult to even approach if you've got these kind of numbers in your face. And then on the other side, uh, Asian men are also rated mostly negatively across the board, except for from Asian women. So there it is again, uh, a subset that may go into a dating site or app thinking that everything's equal, they're on equal grounds with everyone else, and then this kind of information pops up and they see that they are already behind in the race just because they selected a box that says, "Hey, I'm a Asian man," or "I'm a black woman." Uh, the best performers in this way, I guess we could say, would be white men and Asian women,
Yes.
and they're sort of favored across the board. But if we can, do you have the 2014?
Yes, I can actually get there. There we go. So, yep. And the
All right.
2014 should be up right now. Yep.
Yeah. Go. Do you want to talk through this one a little bit and
Yeah, this is a
kick it off?
really interesting one, as you can see sort of how the demographics changed just in the span of 5 years. That sort of preferential treatment, it looks like black women's outlook on white men actually went down. So, like you see in from previous 2009, and you go to 2014, it was all green across the board when it was women rating men with regards to white men. You see white men have a negative 6% from black women. But that sort of stereotype that Asian women are still among across the board from men, just all maintain a positive rating, all between 2 and 15%. But the rating on black women still sort of lagging a little bit, except within their own race, as black men will have a positive outlook on black women going all the way up to 1%. But that's still not saying very much, because you see what Asian men, Latinos, and whites think of black women, and it's just terrible, because this is just completely superficial on that end. I mean, it's very interesting how some of the demographics have changed a little bit, but you still see the same continuity. Who is the type of person that is sort of favored versus the type of person that already have a built-in quote disadvantage among them. So it's very interesting. I mean, you get across the board, and Latino women actually. Among all, have actually a good rise, all positive ratings from men across the board, but not as high as Asian women, only 2 to 10% there for Latino women. So it's a very very interesting statistic as you goes on. And if OkCupid ever to release like a 2019, because we're 5 years in now after this 2014, and see what kind, if there are any social issues or anything that have maybe affected a race negatively, and wondering if that would be reflected in any 2019 numbers. But it's always very interesting to take a look at these sort of specific numbers broken down by race. So makes for interesting talk.
Yeah, for sure. Something that I would point out that I think is probably significant. This data is not representative of all online dating. This is
Mhm.
one particular site. While it might show a trend, it also doesn't account for what's going on in the real world, as we'll call it, say, outside of online dating, where, um, for example, let's say I am out there in the dating pool and I am surrounded by a bunch of friends of the same race. Maybe I don't have a connection to another racial subset. Uh, so in my real world, I don't have the ability to kind of pick and choose from all different ones. But when you're online, this is just like Amazon shopping. You're
Mhm.
going through and clicking whatever, and so it just might not be representative of like what would really happen if you didn't have that shopper's mentality. And so these race trends that show up on these sites don't necessarily indicate how it would work if you were to say go out to a bar, or if you were to make a connection from a friend or a friend. I just don't think people should be so discouraged by it if they are on the side that shows that's in the red
Yeah.
on those diagrams there.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like because of the nature of online dating, you just sort of what you sort of fall back on is you sort of pick and choose with regards to what you want, like a salad bar. I mean, like you have that sort of ease of selection that people usually fall into what they feel like are their comfort picks. So you see what people are very used to, or who they're used to dating, or who they want. They feel like who should be their, who would be their like sort of optimal partner, with regards to what they see is their future. But it leads to one of those things that you sort of have to ask questions about yourself as to what it is that you want with regards to online dating. Because with all of the stuff that you can't control, then how do you sort of put yourself into a situation where you can find somebody without I'm sort of not being able to word this correctly, without without making yourself negated by everybody that's available out there. It is a large pool. There is a lot of people that are participating in online dating, but there are things that you do that could theoretically, quote, disqualify yourself from being in that sort of pool of available people to look at. So we we sort of broke down some questions and wanted to get some specific answers with regards to what we think it's absolutely important when you're setting up or trying to go out there and online date. And I guess the first question would be, do you want to be wanted for any specific characteristic? And what this means is, like, do you fall back on something that you feel like is absolutely necessary for you to go out there and date someone? So is it looks? Is it height? Is it money? I mean, these are things that people always complain about. For example, on Tinder, the joke is if you're a male and you're not 6 foot, good luck, you're not finding anybody. And it's sort of interesting because as a woman, if you basically say that, the average height in America, I think, is like 5'10", if I remember right. You knock out a good majority of the people, so you limit your basically possibilities of anybody who could be a really nice, good looking 5'11" guy that doesn't fall into the 6 foot range right out of the pool. You know,
Right, and I don't think they have settings where you can. I mean, maybe they do.
I think
Do
they
they
do.
have a setting where you can
Yeah,
say that if you're under 6 feet, don't even show up on my
yeah,
radar? I mean, that's pretty brutal. But I I I would say that people should just be careful about what they put out there, right? If you want to be wanted for the whole of who you are, then you should do more to show off all of those things. If you're just showing up saying, "Hey, this is my salary," and you're putting that out in front first, the people you're going to get are going to be looking for that, right? And do you say, "Oh, I want to be loved for how much I make," or do I want someone who only cares how tall I am, or basically whatever that thing is. So I think most people would like to say, "No, I want to be loved as a whole, not just for uh, whatever the target is that makes people attractive in general based on statistics."
yeah. And that's the thing. It's those kinds of questions. It is hard to sort of try something new, and that also includes online dating. So the thing about it is you don't know. You could be surprised as to what you might find out there with regards to online dating in being able to sort of reach out and try something new. Another question that actually is really really important that you do need to ask about yourself is, does your online dating profile accurately represent every facet of who you are and what you offer? In most cases, this is no. And a lot of it could be associated to the online dating site where they don't have stringent questions, where they try to ask you everything about yourself so that somebody can really sort of examine your profile. But it also could be where you have somebody like eHarmony, which has a ridiculously long questionnaire. Maybe there are things that you don't want to let people know about yourself. I myself am a anime fan. At 40, that might be discouraging to somebody in my age range who wants to sort of find somebody who doesn't think that Japanese cartoons are cool. That might be a turnoff to somebody. So you try to maybe put out something that is not necessarily true about yourself, or to give yourself an impression of what you think that the standard age group of what you're looking for is out there is looking for, and you could end up limiting yourself in what you sort of offer. And the thing about it is it's different for everyone. Like, what you choose to put out there will let you sort of decide what you actually will come up against. And it's sort of hard to choose what you think is good and what you think is bad, but there are quote stereotypes that people sort of try to sort of associate with and will put out there, and it becomes sort of very generic and blah because everybody ends up putting out the same thing.
Right, that's what I was gonna say. That if people are going for mass appeal, right, and they want to have the attention of the opposite sex, they tend to start copying each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the types of photos that they choose, or perhaps their likes. I like traveling. Well, shit, everyone likes traveling. If you got money, you want to go someplace, right?
Yeah.
Like no one's gonna be like, I really love staying in my basement. Come on and get me, baby. It's like it just doesn't make sense there.
Yeah.
So uh, when people are trying to put themselves together in their profile and put it out there, they need to pick what's really important to themselves and put that out, right? Because if they want to be seen and desired for the things that they value in themselves, then that is what they should show, not that not the picture of you holding up your drink at a party, because unless that's who you are and that's what you want to be like, that's what you want to be represented by, it doesn't serve you. Like, great, you can drink a drink and you can smile, like, but really, people just got to go deeper if they want to have a positive response there.
Yeah, absolutely. And another, as we go down, there are four questions that we've sort of broken down here. The third one is more of a mentality questions, like, are you being rejected if someone actually doesn't respond to the message you sent? You have to understand in online dating there are going to be people on their own schedules, and I think a lot of men specifically get really rejected if a woman that they find in online dating or a profile that they find very attractive and send a message out and don't get a response. Does it mean that you're actually being rejected? No. Does it mean that maybe she's gotten so many responses that she hasn't gotten to yours? Possibly. Could it be that she hasn't used her profile in a while and it's just a latent profile and you found it and she's not active on the site and hasn't checked it in 3 weeks, 4 weeks because she was having issues early on? That happens too. This is more about like not being able to get down on yourself and being able to sort of understand that you just sort of have to keep plugging away. And I think a lot of men forget that.
Yeah, in the real world, you have to deal with rejection. It's going to happen in work. It's going to happen with friends. It's going to happen when you're trying to get in a pickup game of basketball.
Mhm.
Whatever it's going to be. Um, and if you take it personally, which most people do, that's human. You should not be faulted for that. But if you start to disqualify yourself, saying, I'm not even going to go down to the court today because I don't want to be rejected and not get in the game, well, you have a 100% chance of failure in that case, right? And maybe you send out 50 messages and you get nothing back for any of those reasons that you described before. Uh, and that's a very real situation for some people. But if you have your profile well developed and you are reaching out to a person that has, like, I mean, you can look at some of them, they show their ratings, how often these people respond back. So if they have a high response rate and it's a better possibility, you're taking a better shot in that case at getting the kind of attention back that you're looking for.
Mhm. Yeah. So, good. The thing about it is don't get yourself down about all of this. It's like, keep plugging away because eventually it will end up in a good spot. And then the final question that we sort of want everybody to sort of ask themselves is, do you think that dating is fair or that it should be? And the thing about it is like, fairness doesn't exist in this world. There are people who are going to have better results. There are going to be people who are not going to have as good as results. There is no fairness. I mean, if you look at the way the world works, fairness doesn't really apply. So why should it apply in dating? Well, you can try and make it fair, but in most cases, fairness doesn't apply here as well as it doesn't apply in the real world. So don't assume that it's just not fair because you were given a bad hand or something like that. Make something out of it. Be positive. Some way, somehow, somewhere, like someone will find that positivity and actually be able to sort of see you for what that is. If you end up being negative about it and sort of falling back, well, it's not fair. This is not. It's not. This, I don't understand why I don't get the benefits of all of this. It's like you're just going to live in a negative world. I think.
Right. And I think fairness is partially based on the rules of life, the rules of the system, the rules of socialization and dating, all of that. There are rules, unwritten rules, how you behave, how you interact with people, how you present yourself. If you step outside those too far, you're going to get slapped back. You're going to get these rejections. You're going to get, you're going to fail.
Hmm.
And so, while things may not be fair for everyone involved, understanding what are the rules and making sure that you are, following them to the degree that they help you and avoiding pitfalls, then I think that fairness will have less of an effect on you, and you'll have a kind of a real way to interact and a real way to create opportunities for yourself in the dating world.
Yeah. Yeah, and these are four important questions that I think people need to sort of remember and make sure that, when you get down on yourself and when you look at what you've been doing, you want to sort of maintain yourself sort of a positive attitude with regards to it all as you go forward in your online dating life. But we sort of get to the question of, you know, what is good for you? Do you want to target yourself in a general sense? Do you want to target yourself in a narrow sense? Do you want to be very specific on who you want to find? Or do you want to cast a wide net out there with regards to how you sort of go about it? Now, everybody's different depending on what you are and what you're comfortable with. And my experience with online dating, I would like a general sort of way of finding people to sort of date, as I maybe cast maybe too wide of a net, trying to see if I can find too many people. But for me, it's worked in that particular way. That has been my particular experience. But specific targeting and general appeal both have their positives and their negatives. And it just is really dependent on, I guess, how it works for you. I mean, for me, um, I like all walks of life. I'm a very amicable person. At least I think I am. Um, but I am not very particular as to when it comes to generalities such as race or something like that. So for me, I might be a little different.
Yeah, I think, and I mean, I'm not speaking just about you in your particulars, but if people are looking to have success, then keeping a broad range approach is a much better way of yielding results. If you are saying I only date this kind of person and they have to have this height, this salary, this, every time you put a filter on, your results are going to narrow, 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 narrow. And from those results, you still have to consider, do any of those people want me? Right? So the further you narrow it, the further you're going to get your possibility that they're also looking for you narrowed. So generally, broad spectrum, broad approach is better than that pinpoint. However, in the case that there's something that is very particular or something that is just like, gotta have it. If this isn't there, I don't even want to bother. Then you got to go a little specific, right?
Hmm.
And hopefully that's not race. Hopefully that's not something that's, um, I don't know, superficial in a way. But for example, if like your anime thing, like let's say
Hmm.
anime is, I know it's not, but let's say it was like the number one most important thing in your life, and you needed the person that you connect with to have that be the number one most important thing in their life. Then I mean, you're probably going to end up on a dating site that's specific to that. But in general, you'd want to put that as a point of focus, and pinpointing in this case would actually give you a greater chance of success, especially if someone values that thing as much as you do.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing about it is like there are different priorities for people. Some believe that sports or the outdoors is the major driving force in their lives, or maybe something specific like, a hobby of theirs that I might not be familiar with, and that is super important to them. And it is super important that somebody share that with them, with regards to being a viable partner for you to be with. But the thing about it is like, even if it is that important, you have to make an effort with regards to trying to find that person. And I've got a personal story here where effort wasn't necessarily my strong point. We live in an area where driving is difficult, let's say. Even on weekends and on holidays, getting around this city is just problematic. And in my online dating life, I try to restrict myself to an area that's within 15 miles of my house, but 15
Wow.
miles within Virginia. So therefore, it's like you're not gonna. You find a lot of people in that area that still fall into that particular sort of area. But there was this one time, there was a response from a young lady in Maryland, and I was like, oh, why not? I'll take a shot. Go out there, do the drive, meet, have a really good time, come back, and I'm like, nah, it's too far. I don't want to deal with this. This is annoying. It's outside the beltway. It's just, like, and this is the example of laziness when it comes to casting a wide net. You might want to try something and then you go through the whole process and you just like no matter how many positive points that you have, it's just you succumb to this sort of effort drain. And to me, this was very superficial and very terrible. But when I told her, thank you for meeting me, but unfortunately, I just don't think the drive is going to be one of those things that is going to help this relationship work. So I figure, thank you very much for taking the coffee date, but I think this is going to be it. this
Ouch.
this is me being lazy. This is literally me
Yes.
not putting any effort into this and just being a terrible person. But this is something that you have to understand that like, when doing all of these things, if you are going to be casting a wide or if you're going to be specific, you can't be lazy. You have to make an appearance. You have to make you have to make an effort with regards to it, no matter who you find, because that person could be the special one, but she's 50 miles away, 60 miles away. Could be a plane trip away. Who knows? You hear those stories of long distance relationships, and in college I had plenty of them, to the point where I was driving multiple hours to see the person I was dating. So maybe those experiences jaded me, and
Well, where's
it was
that
just
get up and go, man?
I
That was way
know.
more than 50 miles. Do you think any part of that is a result of uh, there not being enough chemistry or enough of a spark? Do you think that you were just like, you drove to Maryland and you guys were together, and it just wasn't enough for you to motivate you to step out of the lazy zone and do something a bit more to make it happen?
Yeah, the thing about it was is like, meeting her was great and she was fairly attractive and I found that nice. And you know me, I'm very personal, so I just sort of let her talk and let her tell, information about herself. I did the same thing. We were getting along relatively well, but there wasn't like I guess the word, using an old word from my teenage years, I was not completely siced about it. You know what I'm saying? There was there was no immediate like, oh man, I got to drive back here again and go see her. And I don't know if that was because my drive there was pretty terrible just to get there. And I try to never be late when it comes to anything, especially if you're trying to date. For one thing or another, I might not want to drive 25 miles to see you, but I will definitely be on time, and I'll try to be at least a little bit early because that shows respect for people. For those who don't understand that being late is actually a sign of disrespect to the person that is inviting you anywhere, that could be a whole life lesson that I can try to teach you in a later video because people seem to not understand that, but that's another topic altogether. But
Yeah. So,
yeah,
so I think when we talk about being lazy,
yeah.
we need to consider that that that's not the only way to be lazy.
No,
People
there
are lazy
isn't.
in
Yeah.
all kinds of ways, right?
This is
So
a specific version, yeah.
laziness can show up, right, right.
Mhm.
Laziness can show up in how much time you invested in making your profile on the dating site or whatever. Like, did you just do the basics? Did you put something more? Did you put something significant? Did you share part of yourself? Like, are you actively on it trying to, drum up dates and things like that? Or did you just make a crap account, barely invest any time, and then sit back and say, I don't understand. Why am I not getting messages? Why am I not getting dates? Like people at that time, they're feeling disqualified. They're feeling like they put themselves out there when in fact they really didn't. They
Yeah,
just went through the minimal amount of effort to get it done, right? And so there's profile, right? Then there's the messaging, the texting, the calling. Like how much of that communication, that social interaction are you pushing? And with these unwritten rules we talked about earlier, oh, am I allowed to text more than once without a response? Am I allowed to text past a certain hour? If I get this kind of response, does it mean like people start thinking so much, and at some point if they don't get the kind of response that they're looking for, again, they start to say, well, maybe this is not working for me.
Yeah,
Right?
and that sort of tit for tat sort of exchange can be very very difficult for people when it comes to understanding how much of a response that you want. For example, the messaging part, especially like on Tinder, for example, people expect immediate responses when somebody messages you right away. Well, that doesn't necessarily happen. People are doing things. It doesn't necessarily mean that that person doesn't find you attractive. If you didn't match up, that was a reason, but people get really upset about it. And the dating and the calling and the texting, when you have started to date somebody else, um you just sort of have to understand expectations and what people are sort of going through with regards to what they are doing on the other end. And it doesn't mean that you're being rejected, or it doesn't mean that you're getting down on yourself on the other things. So, you know, being a parent, being lazy in your appearance is also another one of those things. Try to dress nice. Wearing schlubby outfits everywhere just doesn't necessarily do things. But in the meantime, uh, I think we sort of drilled that point home with regards to what we want to do on the laziness factor. You have to make an effort. So, you know, in the end, after all of that, the laziness, the question that you ask yourself, it's like, how do you deal with these frustrations that can happen once and again? You're going to be out there for a bit. Maybe you are out there for a long bit. Maybe it takes a year or something like that. What is it that you have to do to sort of overcome these existing frustrations, Tim?
Well, I think the very first thing, and one of the most important things for online daters, dating in general, actually, is to realize and recognize what is real and what is not real. A lot of people are going on Reddit and seeing story after story after story of failed relationships, people cheating, people ghosting, just a lot of negativity. And that tells them, wow, dating sucks, or I don't want to be a victim of all that mess. And so then they disqualify themselves. They say, you know what, I'm just not going to get into it. Um, or they go into it expecting it and that messes things up, right? So then you have that. You have we're talking about what's real and what's not. There are fake profiles. So you might be trying to hit up on a girl that doesn't actually exist. You might be
Mm-hmm.
sending a message and being like, "Ah, man, I can't believe this. I didn't get anything back from the fake generated profile with the
Mm-hmm.
model looking picture that's designed to get people to pay and get on the site in the first place." So, be careful. Just recognize if it looks too good to be true, it's possibly is.
Yep.
And then also failing your first few times out doesn't actually mean anything, right? You, if dating was so easy that the first person you went out with just happened to be exactly what you were looking for your life, I mean, they would have no need for these sites. There wouldn't be people complaining. That Reddit, all the Reddit dating stuff wouldn't exist. It's not easy. And so recognizing that it will be difficult, that it won't be the first, second, third, that you will probably be let down by somebody. You'll probably overinvest in somebody. You're going to make these mistakes along the way. And in the end, that's part of the process. That's what gets you to what you're looking for. That's what gets you to that person and what makes it worth it. So, getting past that, saying, "Okay, this is what my reality is in dating." And then you have to stop telling yourself the stories. Right? You do. Everyone does this. Everyone tells himself a kind of story. It's like why they failed, why they got rejected. There are some people out there right now that are complete assholes, but are so sure that they got rejected because of their height. Guess what, buddy?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if you were, 6'2" asshole. You're still the asshole.
Yeah.
So, consider that. You should be looking for some kind of feedback. You should be maybe getting help from your friends, get some input from them, people that know you perhaps even better than you know yourself, uh, and stop kind of like telling the story that makes you feel better about your failures.
Mm-hmm.
Say, "This is my reality. This is," and to say, "Oh man, I really put my heart out there when you sent 3 messages and had some texts and it didn't turn into a date." Like you didn't really put yourself out there, man. This
Yeah.
is just the tippy toe beginning steps. So again, reality is really important. I think it's important for people to set themselves up for small successes. So maybe take a date that you wouldn't normally consider. Someone who's not like so far outside of the range where this person is not anything you'd ever want to be with. Don't take that date. just to say you went on a date. But if there's someone who, they're cute, but they're not like super hot, just do it. Just go out. It's not
Mhm.
going to hurt you. You got to eat dinner, so you might as well have dinner with that person. You know, uh, and say, okay, I don't need to go out tonight and get laid, but perhaps I can get a kiss, or perhaps I can get a second date. Like these small successes will make the overall experience of dating and online dating, uh, you know, more kind of palatable for you, that you'll
Yeah.
be able to get back into it.
Yeah, and those
And
experiences will help you out in the long run. So, you will
true,
know what to do in certain situations going forward. So
right?
that's very positive.
And the last one I'm going to talk about here, and I might throw in a little story of my own here. Um, it's, it's called triangulation, and we use this when we're talking about research studies. The police use it when they're trying to find out where you are using radar and locating you on your GPS. It's basically like the idea is, well, hopefully not you, but you know what I'm saying. Um, it's not going with one approach and that being your only way in, right? It's saying I can approach from this way, and this way, and give myself a better overall chance by saying that I'm, by approaching it from these various perspectives. So if you look at uh, people who just go on online dating, they don't want to go out to the bar because they don't want to get rejected. Maybe they don't drink or whatever else, but they basically just pigeonhole themselves into one avenue. And if they're not successful there, then suddenly they're not successful in dating overall. That's pretty harsh. And
Hmm.
uh, you know, in almost every aspect of your life, if you just go with all eggs in one basket, one method, one way, it's great if it works and you kind of lucky, but in most cases, it's not the case. You will have to try different avenues to get there. So don't just rely on online dating. Get out there, right? Put the word out, right? Tell people that hey man, I'm trying to get a date. Do you know anyone you think would match with me? Get yourself into these co-ed kind of situations. You can use sports, you can use gaming, you can use meetups, all kinds of stuff where it's just male, females, and that increases your chances.
Yeah.
And one thing that I say is this is probably the most successful way that I've ever had when my dating is you can break into new circles, new friend circles, um, through kind of like, I mean, it might be scary, but um, you have to put yourself out there in a way that you involve yourself in other people's worlds. So if you are just picking through your circle of friends and maybe they bring someone in every once in a while, it's going to be slim pickings, right? But if you have a friend at work, maybe you don't even really like that person. Maybe you don't respect them. Maybe you don't want to see them, but they're throwing a party. Just because they're not the person that you want to spend your time with doesn't mean that when you go to that party, you're not going to meet 15 or 20 other people that could be a possibility. Or maybe that one of them is, doing something later that week and they bring some of their friends. Like it's these hops and steps away from your social circle that are going to open up a whole range of people. And just by being there, you have something in common. You were invited by somebody. So it's not like going to a bar where you're kind of intimidated by, does this person even want to talk to me? If you're in a social situation that's already pre-designed to be, connected, then there you go. So what I was going to say, I was going to tell a personal story. Uh, I had a friend who uh, he was in the military, and he was pretty successful with women, and to the point that like most times, if there were single girls there, he was just going over and making his moves or whatever. But I was single at the time, and I had my group of friends, and in my group of friends, it was pretty rare that girls would come into the house that we all hung out at. But whenever I went out with this guy, I was guaranteed to meet 2 to 6 women, just randomly. And like, I never, I didn't like capitalize the way he was capitalizing, but at the same time, it did offer exposure, and that led to this guy was through him. I met a girl who I ended up introducing to my friend, and they're married now. And
Hmm.
like my friend benefited from this, hop hop kind of situation. And my friend would have never met that girl if I hadn't gone out and made this connection. So it's like any of that could happen to you, but it won't happen if you're sitting in your house waiting for the love of your life to knock on the door.
And on that, we are going to end the show. Just remember, everyone, like as we've gone through all of these things, these are things to sort of help you out in your relationship world. Questions that you might want to ask yourself: how to keep yourself up, how to keep yourself going down. We provided hopefully some great examples personally in what not to do. Eh? and what you can do to actually sort of go out there and make sure that you make your dating life a little bit more interesting, more fun, and if anything, just to get out there and do something with yourself. So, therefore, you can sort of maybe end this thought that maybe you were disqualified from online dating and just sort of hopefully find that person that you enjoy. But that's going to be the end of our Sunday focus. We're trying to sort of tighten it up a little bit. This is our first time on Sunday afternoon, and hopefully we hope that you found this a little bit enjoyable and helped maybe tweak your online profile or maybe go out there and experiment with online dating. Tim, as always, it's been a pleasure. So again,
Yeah,
we'll be
man.
on Wednesdays, normally at around 10 o'clock, 10:30, where we go
East
through
Coast.
East Coast time. That's right, East Coast time. Well, we'll go through normal topics, submissions, Reddit submissions, and even emails of people who have issues. So join us, as always, on this channel. Wednesday, 10:30. We'll go live again. And then on Sundays, we'll have another topic for you, another focus topic, where we'll try to sort of explain and help out what your problems are in the dating world. But for Tim,
Yeah.
I'm Z. That's going to be it
Yeah,
for
I'm
us.
Tim. Guys, hit the follow here
Yeah.
so you can see us whenever we pop back on. Again, it's going to be Sunday, Wednesday. If you didn't get the full thing here and you want to catch up with us later, we have a YouTube channel, which is Twitch Line Love on YouTube. You can send us an email, twitchlinelove@gmail.com. It's all down there below. Uh, Anything if you have, if it's a personal question and you are kind of shy to ask it in chat here, you can go ahead and send that to us and we will as much information as you give us, we'll do the best we can with it and get back something to you.
Yeah.
And if you want to be featured, we can feature it as well on here. So
Absolutely. So make sure you hit that follow button. Make sure you visit our YouTube site and make sure that if you have any of the issues of your own, go ahead and hit that email address and send us a message. We'll try to solve it here. But for Tim, I'm Hodo. I'm Z. Thanks so much for joining us today. Hopefully you found this informational and fun. So have a good afternoon, guys. Enjoy your Sundays.
peace. Take it easy.